That's gonna be the name of your main male character. Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kay, and today I'm going to be doing a full review of Grimspace by Anne Aguirre. So, as a full review, I do non-spoilers at the beginning, and then spoilers midway to the end, and then I put up a little tag across the bottom, so if you don't want to be spoiled, you don't have to be. So, I read this book because I'm doing the Space Opera September Readathon, and challenge number 2 is to read 2 books by women, so this is one of them. And I'm going to be completely honest right up front, I did not like this book. Not at all. I can't think of really a single thing about this book that I did enjoy. I read it because it had been on my TBR for a really long time. Not my physical TBR like here at home, but just on my kind of Goodreads list of things to read. Several years ago I read her Razorland series. It's like a YA dystopia zombie sort of type book series, I should say, and I really enjoyed it at the time. I was in like high school maybe, and then I was aware that she had some other series. This has several books in it, and it's space opera, and so I was like, oh, I'll try it. Well, then I never got around to reading it. Now I'm doing Space Opera September. Why not try it? I did not have high hopes for this book because I felt like it was going to be had this inkling that it was going to be one of those kind of urban fantasy, paranormal romance type books just as a space opera. Just kind of going off of the cover, this is like I think this was written in 2008. I just had that kind of vibe going in, and I was not wrong. So, quick summary, you have Sarantha Jax. She can travel through Grimspace, which is kind of this like hyperspeed way of getting around out in space. It's genetic, so she has this special gene that allows her to do so. She is She is co-piloting the ship, and it crashes, and everybody except her on board dies, including all the passengers, which there were quite a few, and they were like diplomats and very important people. They all died. She can't remember what happened. The corporation that she works for that kind of has this monopoly on this form of travel and transportation, kind of, they take her prisoner, more or less, and that's where our story opens, is she's being held prisoner on the ship. They're basically psychologically torturing her, and yeah, then this guy shows up and he's like, let's get out of here, and he breaks her out of her room, and they hightail it back to his little ship that he has somehow mysteriously managed to get into this ship where she's being held. It's supposed to be like a high security and blah blah. It's never explained how they managed to get there, and he managed to find her and get back and without being, shot. Whatever. And then they escape, they head off to this other planet, and then there's this whole kind of rebellion thing going on to try to break this corporation. I think it's the Farwan Corporation. Break their monopoly and their hold on interstellar travel, more or less. Well, not interstellar. On this kind of high-speed travel, and because it controls trade and all of that stuff, and all of the jumpers, the only way that they get trained to be able to travel in this way is through them. They're the only ones that are allowed to train them, so they basically own them. Like I said, I can't think of a single thing I liked. Aside from the horrible eye-roll inducing romance in here, which I was already predisposed to not like, but also just the plot was full of holes and conveniences, and then you have the relationships, which I didn't really get. These relationships that are supposed to be going on between our few characters, just none of it. I don't know. I don't know. There's some deaths, a couple of them, and I'm a person who loves characters to die. I really do, but there's a couple in here, and they felt convenient. They felt like, okay, I needed these characters for this plot point here. I needed them to exist to accomplish that. Once that bit's been accomplished, I don't know what to do with them now, because I no longer need them, and now they're more of a hindrance than a help, so I'm just going to kill them. And that's kind of how it felt, to be 100% honest. You have the romance, which I felt was not good. It was kind of a hate to love type of romance. There's even a bit about some miscommunication things going on, which is always irritating. And there's just so much that I just hated. I'm trying to think of anything that's not going to be a spoiler. So our main, like, love interest male character in here is named March. He is, like, the pilot, or he becomes the pilot, I guess. And several times he is described as having a saturnine smile, or I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced. I'm really not entirely sure. I had to look that up because she kept using it. Oh, he had a saturnine smile, and just over and over. So it's like, I don't actually know what that means. So I looked it up, and it just means like bitter or gloomy or not happy. Okay, well, now that you've used that like 10 times, I get it. He's apparently this super bitter guy all the time. He hates Sarantha at the beginning for literally no reason. There's no reason for him to hate her, but he does. Sarantha spends the whole book feeling guilty about everything. People have died in order to save her, and, you know, on this planet that they end up going to, she gets a bunch of people killed because, not through anything that's actually her fault. I mean, it's her actions, but it's not her fault, because at no point do they feel like it's a good idea to tell her anything. They basically kidnap her off of this prison ship, which, I mean, yeah, she's no longer a prisoner, but she's also, like, not free to go do whatever she wants, so she's still sort of a prisoner, but she doesn't really see it that way. She's just irritated that they're, like, you know, telling her what to do. So they take her. They don't tell her anything. They're basically like, sit down, shut up. Okay. They arrive on this planet. Now there's this whole, like, we're giving you, we stole you away for these people so you can help them create this kind of academy and teach jumpers outside of the control of the corporation. You don't get a choice in this. We're just going to make you just have to do it. And she's irritated. She's not nearly as angry as I felt like she should have been. And then to top it off, no one feels like it's necessary to tell her that they're in a dangerous place and there's certain things she shouldn't do because it's not safe. No one says anything. And then when she does those things, they're mad at her. And she's like, I feel so guilty because they got people killed and blah, blah. And it's like, but please, they didn't tell you. That's their fault. They should be feeling bad here, and they're not. They should be feeling bad for not telling you ahead of time, hey, don't do that thing because it's bad. And that kind of happens kind of all along. No one's keeping her informed, and she's not angry, and she's not being, you know, forceful about, hey, you need to actually loop me in, whatever. Yeah, stupid decisions are made. Like, there's literally no reason for characters to do some of the things that they're just like, headstrong, dead set, gotta do this, whatever. And there's no reason. Literally no reason for it. No logical reason. No even real emotional, like, oh, it was just like in the heat of the moment I was so upset or I was so angry I just had to go do this. There's not even that. It's just like they're randomly just overcome with the strong desire to have to go do the thing, despite the fact that it could get them killed, which would in return then get everyone else killed because there are so few of them to man this ship that literally every single person there is, because there's only like 4 people, if you lose one of them, you can no longer control the ship to do what you need it to do. You can't do anything. Why are other crew members being like, yeah, you can go do that thing, I don't really care, I'm not going to say yes, but I'm also not going to say no? You're effectively basically killing yourself then. Bad choices. Bad choices. So, yeah, I don't have anything good to say about it. I really, really don't. 2 stars. Do not recommend. Did not like. Will obviously not be continuing on with the series. I don't know how many books there are in this series. I'm not even gonna look because I don't care. So now we're gonna move into spoiler territory so I can bitch and complain some more about some of the specific things that happen throughout the book. So, here we go. We'll just start with romance because it's the biggest thing that's everywhere. So, like I said, Sarantha and March, inevitably, you know it's going to happen. As soon as he shows up in her cell to break her out, you know, okay, that's where this is going. He can read minds. So that's like a thing he can do. It's a secret though. No one knows that he can do it. He's kept it to himself or whatever. He can read her mind. So he's being an ass to her right off the bat. And she's kind of one of those stereotypical, like, she's sarcastic and she's kind of a badass and whatever. So she's having this inner monologue, this inner dialogue about, like, you know, oh, I just imagine him, like, getting the crap beat out of him. Or, you know, maybe he'll get spaced or he'll get blown up or, you know, whatever, because he's an ass and I don't like him and blah, blah, blah. Well, of course, she does not realize at first that he can read minds. And then, so he would just, like, react to the things that she's thinking. And then she's like, wait, can he read my mind? Clearly. And then, of course, the whole relationship kind of morphs into a romance, because how it works is that Sarantha navigates Grimspace, but she has to, like, mind meld with a pilot. The pilot's actually controlling the ship. She is like the navigation almost. So he can kind of see through her eyes, and she can see Grimspace and see where the beacons are that guide them through. And so he's actually controlling the ship. And apparently in this world, then more often than not, pilots and the jumpers end up being lovers to some extent, because it's so intimate to be connected that way, I guess. I don't know. It discusses it several times in here, which is great. So then when March ends up being her pilot, because they had a different pilot, but he got conveniently killed right at the beginning, so now March has to be the pilot. Darn. He can read her mind. He can hear all of the mean, snarky things that she has to say about him and all that. And then, of course, it turns into sort of this banter, but then at the same time, though, she's still like, oh, he hates me. And he's like, oh, yeah, you suck. And so it's like kind of a banter, but then also like, I still really don't like you. But then there's just like sexual tension. It's just a mess. Like, everything about them is a mess. The rest of the crew is just like, would you two just bang already and get it over with? And they're just like, no, I don't even like you. And as a reader, I'm like, would you please just proceed, please? Because this is now becoming painful. It's dragging on for so long. So that's a whole thing. Then there's a miscommunication. How can there be a miscommunication when he can read her mind? I don't understand, because it's him misunderstanding like where she's coming from, because she decides to leave the ship towards the endish. She's like, no, I want to actually do something that I want to do for myself. I'm not super into your guys' whole plan of like create this academy, whatever. I want to go actually be independent for once in my life. And he takes it super personal and whatever, even though it's not a personal thing for her, and she was actually going to ask him if he wanted to stay with her, but, you know, he's so mad and he storms off. And it's like, you can read her mind. Or the fact that there's a whole other tangent about him reading minds. He doesn't realize that one of the crew members is actually this shapeshifter. The shapeshifter, he's like a bounty hunter. So he gets rid of the doctor. He doesn't kill him. He just locks him in the closet somewhere, takes his place, and March never realizes that. But he can read minds. So either A, he didn't find it odd that suddenly this guy that he knows is able to close off his mind to March, despite not knowing that March can read minds, because no one knows. Or he never noticed that this guy is thinking about, you know, the fact that he's a bounty hunter and he's trying to get Sarantha and he's lying to people to make that happen and blah, blah, blah. Either way, that does not make sense. That's that tangent. And yeah, so how can you, it just works randomly, his mind reading ability. So most of the time he can read her mind, just, you know, he's reacting to everything she's thinking all the time, even if it's not even about him. Like, but then other times it's like, oh, I don't even know what you're thinking. Like, what? What? Okay. Plot convenience there. He conveniently can't read her mind occasionally. Whatever. So that's that. My other favorite part is that the corporation obviously crashed this ship. That's why they're trying to convince Sarantha that she did it, but actually they did it. Not really sure why she can't remember, maybe because of the trauma and she blocked it out, whatever. But They're basically making her the scapegoat. They crashed this ship because all the delegates that were on board were going to this summit to decide to deregulate, basically achieve what the rebels are trying to achieve, and allowing jumpers to be trained in like private academies outside of the corporation's control. And of course the corporation doesn't want that because then they lose their monopoly. So they intentionally crashed this ship, and now they're trying to blame it on her. And at no point does she stop to think of, why would they crash my ship? Like, that's established pretty early on that they crashed the ship. And she never stops to think of why. And literally somewhere in here, I used to have it marked. I took it out. The bounty hunter that I mentioned earlier, she conveniently, after he captures her, convinces him to not turn her in, and shows him how terrible the corporation is, and he has a conscience and a moral code or whatever. So now he's on her side. And she's like telling him everything that happened. And then he was like, well, did you ever stop to think, like, why would they do that? How did that benefit them? And she literally goes, why? I never stopped to think why. I just assumed that they were bastards. What, they just did it for fun? They're like, it'd be great today. It's Tuesday morning. Let's crash a ship and kill like 100 people. That'll be fun. That's apparently what she thought was going on. And then he's like, And then he's the one who really actually saves the day, because he figures it out and he broadcasts it to everyone, like all the worlds and everything. He puts it out there for the public to see. He's really the savior here. She just is dumb, apparently, and she just kind of, like I said, lets other people lead her around. whatever. Anyway. So, that's all of that. Let's see, what else did I hate? So another fun fact, 2 deaths in this book. I love deaths. The 2 deaths in this book were cheap. So you have this little, like, amphibian sentient creature that they end up with by accident. It's a baby. They accidentally make it hatch, and they have to take it with them so it doesn't die or whatever. They need the DNA to try to accomplish sciencey stuff. They need this DNA from this non-human creature, a sentient creature. So that's how they're going to get it, is from this baby, right? So they're like trying to keep it alive, whatever, little baby X, blah, blah, blah. The moment they get their DNA, they get the DNA from this thing, well, then now it's really inconvenient. How can you have an exciting action-filled space novel if this tiny little baby that is extremely delicate and vulnerable has to be attached to one of your main characters at all times? That's inconvenient for the story. So the best way to handle that is to just kill it. So Sarantha accidentally kills it. This mad scientist type guy stole it. I don't know why. I'm really not sure his purpose other than science. He steals it and he has it. Well, then she kills him to get away and forgets that he has the little baby on him, so she accidentally kills the baby. And then in that same scenario, a little later on, a few pages later, this other character that's been with them, Loris, is basically her slave, because that's how his people work now. They've been chemically altered at the genetic level to be unable to fight, or I guess to be like aggressive or whatever. So they cannot defend themselves in any way. So now they have to be subservient to another being to take care of them and to keep them safe. And she accidentally gets that, his basically slavery transferred over to her. Now he is her responsibility. That becomes inconvenient because if she dies, now he has to kill himself, and she's feeling all bad about it and trying to find a way around that. But ultimately, it's kind of inconvenient. So he sacrifices himself to save them, so that now he's dead. They don't have to worry about him anymore. Whew. Great. So that's, yeah. If you're going to kill a character off, it needs to be warranted. The situation should call for death. That didn't really. The big reason that didn't call for that, because they shouldn't have been there in the first place. March decides, he finds out like there's this secret lab on this other planet that they end up on. And so he has to go check it out. He has to be a hero. He has to go up there and check it out because there's weird experiments going on up there. I'm not sure what he thinks he's going to do, because this base is heavily guarded. And the whole level is locked off. You can't really get in. So they get in through like an air duct or something, or maintenance shaft. I don't even know. if there are people out there who need help, how are you planning on helping them? Because how are you going to get them out in the first place? There's you, and then Sarantha obviously has to go with him because he can't go by himself. There's two of you. There's however many people. How are you going to save them at all? How are you going to get them out without getting yourselves killed and them killed by the people guarding the place? Like, there's literally no way to get back all the way back to your ship with extra people who are possibly injured or incapacitated in some form. What are you going to do? What's the point? You're just going to go up there, and if you die, they have no pilot. They can't. Your crew cannot leave if you die. Add to that Sarantha goes with him, and now they definitely can't leave. And March gets himself shot by the mad scientist dude. So then Sarantha ends up having to try to pilot the ship. She does so extremely poorly, by the way. And so they shouldn't have been up there. And that's how the little baby thing gets killed. That's how Loris gets killed. March gets severely injured, like almost dies, I think. They bang up the ship because she like crashes into everything trying to get it out of the dock before she can, then get it on autopilot to get out of there. They can't go through Grimspace. They can't jump. It's just like, why did that entire scene need to happen other than you needed to kill off a couple characters? That was literally it. You needed to kill off a couple characters, and that was the great way to do that, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, so that was... It was just bad. I'm just gonna stop there because I could literally complain about every single thing that happened in this book, and I feel like I almost have at this point because it's not a very long book. I can't imagine where it goes from here. I really honestly can't, other than downhill. I mean, if that's possible. I don't know. So I'm stopping now. I'm just gonna cut myself off. So that's all I've got. Thanks for sticking around. Like and subscribe down below if you want. Leave a comment if you want to yell at me because you love this book, or if you have read this book and agree and have things to complain about, because complaining is fun. So I will see you guys next time. Bye!